really got back into amps again.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun getting good bass sounds with amps. Even if you do then run to the DI and get something else off it later.
Yeah.
You know, you can add in a third track of something.
Exactly.
But yeah, I
so
like
when you're working with, because you do a lot of stuff where you will get the drums sorted and then you do lots of guitars. You tend to put the guitars on track, get most of those basic rhythm guitars as tight as possible and done with the drums, and then look at the bass.
Yeah.
Because that's quite a rock and metal thing to do, isn't it?
Yeah. That's mostly from a tuning perspective. Because just too many times you've gone to do the rhythm guitars and you go, oh shit, the bass is out of tune. And it's much harder to tell when a bass is out of tune than a guitar. Firstly, it's one note at a time usually. But, you know, second, it's so low. And if you haven't got a perfectly in tune reference guitar to go with it while you're tracking, you don't spot it half the time. You know, and it's only when you then come to load up the guitars on top and you go, shit, that bass is out of tune. Or they go, hang on a minute, that doesn't work with what I'm playing.
Yeah.
Oh, because you thought it was something different because that's how you heard it in the rehearsal room. And you haven't worked it out perfectly with each other. So suddenly, there's a clash. So we're going to have to go back and do the bass again. Or, you know, even if it's just fix a bit. There are times when I do bass and drums, when it's really important for them, when they, when it's a real locked together rhythm section, and sometimes the guitarist will ask for it. I need the bass there. But 99 times out of 100, it just works better all round to do the guitars first. Even if it's not all of them, you know, at least get a good solid pair of rhythms down. And then you can tell. Firstly, and then also, it's easier to tell if the bass sound is going to work with the guitar sound. Guitar it's much easier to get a sound just on its own. But play the guitar, I like that sound. And I can tell that that's going to work. With a bass, I find it a bit more difficult to get a sound without something to fit it into. So if you've got those guitars already tracked, then it's much easier to dial in a good bass tone. For me, I know everybody does it different.
Well, I think it's every situation's different, isn't it? But I find the more that you need distortion in the bass sound, the more you need the guitars there to work out how much the bass needs it. Was doing it with a friend of mine the other week, and he's got this gnarly pedal. It's a custom thing, and it's like annihilated this bass sound. And the rest of the band were going, no, it's too much. And I'm like, just look, I've got a DI as well. Let's just go with it. Moment he played it in the track with the guitars, you could hardly hear the distortion. He took the distorted track out and cranked the DI up, and it was insipid as fuck. It was awful. It's fitting it into that puzzle, isn't it? And you don't know until all those elements are there. And especially kick and bass relationship as well. It's like you get asked that question, do you put the kick above the bass in frequency? It's like, it just depends, doesn't it? It's like, what are you looking for?
Just listen.
And then, you know, maybe the kick, when he's doing double kick stuff, okay, we're going to pull out the low end, which may be the bass player needs to fit underneath that for that part. Or we stick an extra octave on the guitars, you know. It's all that kind of stuff, isn't it?
Yeah, I'll quite often have a quite a radically different sound for the double kicks and the single kicks, and different amounts of like side chaining that to just the bottom of the bass. And that will change quite radically throughout a song, depending on the parts and the tempo. And but that was quite a revolutionary moment in my mixing when I realised, that sorts out all those problems. You can just fit it all together. Much easier than trying to find a sound that works for the whole thing.
Oh, exactly. It's like your static mix is just like part of it, isn't it? It's like you've got to move stuff out of the way, you've got to automate, you've got to change stuff. Russ, did you know Jay?
By internet.
He's
I don't know
hilarious.
personally.
He's Mr. Commit. He's fantastic. He's like 2 or 3 mics up, and he'll go, right, yeah, we don't need any of the large diaphragm condenser for this part, so they'll track it, and they'll double track it, and then they'll go, right, what's happening in the pre-chorus? Oh, let's pull out the 57 and let's put that up, and just commits it.
Great.
He says he doesn't make notes. It's just, this is what the sound needs as we work through the track.
Great.
And I've started committing my kicks down to 1 track, my snare tops down to 1 track now. My guitars, I've done that for years. Just 1 single track and a DI.
Guitars are always 1 track.
Yeah. I'm cheating now because I'm doing a DI, an amp DI, and a cab, so I can now do the new thing of recabbing if I need to. But I haven't needed to, so I might just change that one again. It's like, do you actually need to?
Yeah.
There's something to be said for just getting on with it.
Yeah, psychologically, looking at a mix page, and the fewer elements there are, the more kind of clearer overview you can get.
Well, I'm mixing this track that I'm going back to has got 3 bass tracks for the verse, 4 for the pre-chorus, 4 for the chorus, and another 2 for the middle 8. It's like it's taking up an entire layer on my surface just for bass, and I'm like thinking, fuck. The sounds aren't radically different. It's not something you can just like do a bit of EQ or change a bit of distortion on a plugin. It's frightening.
So I don't mind massively complicated mixes if it all serves a purpose.
Yeah.
But when you get sent every guitar take has got 6 tracks, why? Yeah. Is there, you talk to whoever's recorded it. What's the purpose here? Is there a way it fits all together? Oh no, I just wasn't very happy with any of them, so I just recorded 6 amps. I thought I'd send you them all. Okay. Right. Okay.
Right.
But didn't you have a producer? I thought you had a producer. Yeah. Did he not make any decisions? No.
There is a fear of commitment, I think, a hell of a lot of it. I think it's got worse. I remember doing, you're a keyboard player, so you know how big a thing MIDI was when we didn't have very large track counts. We can keep everything in the computer. It wasn't because we needed to change shit. It was because it gave us the ability to put a load of different things on. It was like having an extra 24-track tape.
Yeah.
And it was only when I was doing Priest a few years ago, when I was doing some keyboard parts, and Glenn said to me, "Are you recording that?" And I went, no, it's in the computer. She said, "Just print the audio." And I went, I suppose I could, couldn't I? And it's bit me on the arse recently with some old programming things I've been doing for someone else, where I'm having to resurrect a 2011 laptop because it's got Contacts, a version with a particular library that you can't get anymore. And I'm like, why didn't I just print the fucking things?
Yeah, well, I'm doing this thing at the moment called Dark Sky Burial. And
it's an uplifting
other guy, it's Shane from Napalm.
Oh, is it?
It's one of his side projects. Right. He brings a lot of it that he's done at home, and he'll bring audio and MIDI.
Yeah.
Cool, yeah. And then, but the stuff we do here on top, most of it is just played straight in the audio. Even though it's going into the computer, I've got it there if I want it. Occasionally I'll record the MIDI as well. But I'm like, no, let's do it for real.
Yeah.
Because it's going to make a vibe.
Yeah.
Because neither of us are good keyboard players. We know how to make a noise.
Yeah.
But, 2 fingers at a time.
But that's it, isn't it? I mean, it's like if I'm doing any stuff where, God forbid, I have to play bass, I'm like, fucking highlighting and auto-punching. It doesn't matter, does it? But at least it's committing it. Now, I think there's a lot to be said for not disappearing up your backside. Yeah. With too much stuff in there, because that's the biggest thing. I've done stuff recently with people on podcasts, and they've said the biggest problem is exactly what you said. Is all these parts come in. They want you to comp their stuff, and it's like, hang on, I'm not producing.
Yeah, vocal takes.
Yeah.
Oh, here's 12 vocal takes. Well,
yeah.
Which one's the main? Oh, we don't know. Just you choose. Well, hang on a minute. This is not a mixed job.
No. And I'm not using Melodyne. I've already established that earlier.
Yeah.
It's terrible.
Well, it's even worse when you get stuff that's all been hard tuned. Can I have the original tracks, please? Oh, I don't know where they are. They've gone. Oh, God. I've even had to untune stuff. It's been so hard tuned. I put it through the tuner and get the pencil out and draw in some life back into it.
I remember an interview with Chris Lord-Alge, and he was saying about when he gets sent stuff that's over-compressed, they're like, what do you do? Actually, it might have been Tom. Anyway, one of them, they said, well, I just compress it even further and ride in some dynamics with automation. What can you do? It's terrible. Because you do a different... I'm sure you still do it with drums. You do still do the crossfading the toms into a filtered ambience. So I've got hard crossfaded and hard cut toms appeared for this mix I'm doing at the moment, and it's like great, because now I've got all this spiky shit going on the tails of toms to nothing. I can't even create something where when the toms poke out I don't get the cymbals come. It's just a hideous mess. It's like, where are the original tracks? Oh no, they've gone. Oh, no, they haven't.
Yeah. And drums edited without being grouped. It's shocking how many times that happens. What were you thinking? How did you not see that that's just wrong? Can't you hear that it's wrong?
I think this is part of the lack of education that these people have. They don't get the damage they're doing.
I would have thought that with things like drum editing, surely that's like got to be the #1 YouTube video. If there's one thing you can learn from YouTube, it's how to edit drums. But people still can't do it.
I had to learn how to do it in Logic. I forced myself to do it, and it was actually like, I can do it. It's not impossible. Machine, the guy out in the States, he's brilliant at that kind of stuff, and that's quite inspirational to see someone, because that totally proves that you can do anything in any software.
Yeah.
And it's great to see it. But yeah, it's a resource, isn't it? But I think you've got to know that you're doing it wrong in the first place.
Yeah.
That's the difficulty, isn't it?
You're right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And there's too many people that they go, oh, I've got a copy of Pro Tools and I know how to record the band. We can do it with our mate. Our mate's recording a new album. Can you master it?
Yeah, in his garage.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. Should we...
yes, let's
have a quick look beyond.
Yes.
At our new room.
Wow.
Well, yeah, so we just recently did all this, lined it all, insulated, and you now can't hear the rain or passing vehicles. And we desperately needed the storage. Everything was piling up out there, which was starting to have an effect on the space out there. But it's still got some life.
Yeah, and it's what's cool again is this is the treasure trove that that I was talking about earlier, when your band comes in and they go, oh shit, look at all this stuff. We've got some different snares we can try. We've got different amps we can try. That's the thing that bands and some guitars. It's what they come in. That should be the toys that they're looking to go. Oh, wouldn't it be great if?
Yeah, but at the same time, I don't want all these in the control room.
No.
As a lot of people do now.
Yeah. I
think if you face a guitarist with too many choices, firstly they want to try them all. And you're like, oh, come on.
It's preset bashing. It's totally preset bashing, and they do that thing where it's like, I've got it all automated. I've got an app on the iPad that will switch between amps, and it's like, you get, again, it's that emotional attachment. You bring something out, you have to carry it into that room, put it down. You're going to spend the time going, actually, this amp's not bad. Maybe I can just get some more out of it. What if we put a boost in front of it? Now does that sound better than, we tried all 8 and we couldn't get a sound?
Yeah. Yeah, I generally will pick a pair.
Yeah.
And go, I think one or both of these could work.
Yeah.
We'll go and try them. If it doesn't, I'll come and get something else. But that's the other thing as well. Once you've tried it, and you're like, oh, okay, now I know.
Yeah.
I want a bit less of that, which is this one here. And also, I don't want the clutter in there.
No.
As well. And keep this as the, oh, wow, look at all this gear.
Yeah.
Yeah, right, now let's go and work.
and all of your mic and mic cable storage and your mic stands. It's just really important.
It's temporary at the minute, but until we get that end of the room done, we've got to build some panels,
right,
so that it's a bit more dead down that end, so that we can do vocals and stuff.
All right.
I'm hoping it will be dead enough then down there. You
can always put some screens. Can't you?
Yeah. We've got the screens out there that can be dragged in. Great. And the great use of cabs. The great screens. This I had to think about this though, the foam.
Oh yeah.
Because of course all the snares were rattling and singing with everything going on.
Yeah, like Francesco Camelli's place out in LA, Sphere.
Oh, with all the
drums all resonating.
Oh God, I hadn't thought of that.
Yeah, it's the first thing Stu mentioned. He goes, "I bet that sounds fucking good." Stu Jones Woodworm Studios, great place in Danbury.
Indeed.
In fact, there's a tour of the very posh bloke Stu walking around there. And in fact, if you this is our advertorial.
I know when I put a mic in that corner there, it's going to sound great. I know the drum kit is going to sound good if it's sat in this corner of the room. I know that, and in some ways, I guess that kind of limits you a little bit. But you do know, like, I haven't got to waste time. I know I can get a really good room sound off that mic in that position. But since we've redone it, I've lost all that. Right. I've having to start from scratch again, which is brilliant. Yeah. It's so exciting to search out all these new positions for microphones. Where's the big John Bonham bass drum hump in the room? Where is it? I found it this week. It's in that corner. And it's massive. I went, see, that used to be in that corner, but no, it's all changed. It's a new journey.
The way you've got the place working, I mean, you've probably not had a day off since last October, have you, in a real sense?
No, apart from we did take another 2 weeks out last month,
right?
Because the storeroom in the back, which I'm sure we can have a look at later, it wasn't soundproofed, because it was only ever built as a storeroom, and it had a tin roof with no insulation. And it's had a great sound in there, like a little extra drum verb room, little chamber, but you couldn't use it if it rained, because it was just shh on the roof, and if any traffic going past the end, which doesn't happen often because it's not a road, but sometimes people reverse vans around the back, obviously it would ruin your take. So we really liked using the space. So we said, right, okay, let's take another 2 weeks out and we'll properly insulate it. And that's turned out really nice. It's still a storeroom. It's still full of stuff.
Yeah.
It actually, the reverb with nothing in there was quite spectacular. It's a little bit more calmed down now. But it's still a very useful space. We've got tie lines out there and headphone lines, whatever. So we can... It gives us the opportunity to do more live stuff. We can have a singer in there, a guitarist in there, whatever, and they've got line of sight with the drummer. Don't tend to do much live stuff, but it happens from time to time. So that is a really useful space to have. But yeah, that was it. We said 2 weeks. That's all the time we're going to take to do it. And it's not quite finished, but it's nearly.
You get to that point though, don't you, where it's like you get on and work and you don't see the problems anymore, you know. And most people walking in would just be like, this is fucking great, you know. It feels like work's going on, you know. It's my ideal place. It's like mic stands are out everywhere. There's mics on them. It's not untidy, but it's not OCD.
Well,
It's working.
it's always work in progress.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what I like is, we touched on the fact that there's an amount of gear here, but it doesn't really figure, does it? It's like, I guess probably the most important thing is the way that the work flows through for you. It's like...
Yeah, I don't feel like I'm missing anything.
No.
I don't, obviously everybody's got stuff on their wish list.
Yeah.
These Genelecs have been on my wish list for a while.
Yeah, they're going back with me.
That is something, obviously, which is important,
Yes.
and is very hard to skimp on, good monitoring. But as far as everything else goes, I've got microphones that do each job. I've got bits of gear that that do really well on certain things, and I know how to use it, and I'll use it on everything's in use when I'm tracking.
So here's a question then. This isn't a leading thing, but what's your, and this isn't a gear thing either, but what's your what do you stick on a guitar cab? Has that changed much? Have you found anything to replace the old known
57,
things?
Yeah. I still quite often have a 57.
Yeah.
I've got another thing I'm using a lot at the minute is a Mic Tech.
Yes.
I can't remember the model number. It's a drum mic. I think it was designed for snare and toms. Pretty inexpensive. Very similar to a 57, but just kind of got a little bit more wow. So that's being used a lot lately. And depending on what it is, what the material is, if it's super fast stuff, I tend not to need to look for anything else to deal with bottom end. Usually got enough.
Yeah.
But sometimes if it's a bit more slow paced, doom stuff or whatever, I'll use a ribbon on the edge of the cone just to get some real oof.
Yeah.
But essentially, nothing drastic has changed.
No.
I stopped. I haven't lately done my ridiculous 5 mics at once thing, which people relentlessly take the piss out of me for.
Yes.
But sometimes I'll have 3 on there.
Yeah.
And one's just a wild card. Just chuck it up, see what happens.
Yeah.
See what happens. Ride it up and see where the phase locks in or doesn't. Yeah.
Which puts it back to the monitoring being so important, because it's like if you can hear what you're doing and hearing in context with a track, what does that sound need with these sounds? Then no spec or hearsay about anything is going to affect what comes out of those speakers.
Yeah.
It's about putting it in front of a cab, moving it and going, that really works with that guitar.
Well, and also not being too precious to go, oh, that doesn't work at all. I really ruined that, didn't I? Come on, let's try something else. If you can't make it work quite quickly, then something's wrong.
Yeah.
Go back to the beginning and have another look at it.
Well, I'm notorious for saying I hate Royer 121s on guitar cabs. Right up until the time I did it in front of a whole bunch of people and said, I bet it's going to win today. And I've not used anything else since because it seems to be fucking winning every time.
So what do you combine that with?
57.
Yeah, 57 and a Royer.
But the 57 gets moved to where... And I take time. I mean, it's like I will go in, I'll stick a piece of tape across where the grill, where the cone is, and I'll mark it into like 10 segments and I'll just record a bit at each one, just because I'm not paying for one of those Dynamounts.
I would
Even
like
though
one,
they're brilliant,
but they're ridiculous
they
money.
are expensive.
Yeah.
But they're brilliant. And a friend of ours, John Priestley, he's got one, and I tried it. I said, go on then, impress me. And I went, oh fuck, I'd never have come to that decision. And it really was. It was like this incredible point for that particular sound on a.
So as you were moving it, could you not see it?
No,
you just
exactly. You're looking on screen at the positions it's meant to be in its target area, but no, just listening.
Yeah,
going,
see, that's the magic, isn't
it's
it? Not
brilliant.
actually looking at what it's doing, because
totally.
You could put it somewhere and go, I would never put it there.
Well, that's what normally we say, isn't it? I'd never normally do that.
Yeah,
That's why I don't have screens in front of me. when I'm mixing. In fact, when I'm tracking, I'm always off to one side. I mean, I'm lucky I work in rooms that have got dualities and AWSs so that I can use the control surface for return, you know. My computer's always off to one side. I never look at the screen.
I've got the screen and keyboard off to the side here. Unfortunately, the screen packed up yesterday, so I'm going to sort out what's going on there. I don't know if it's a power supply issue.
But it's that change of perspective, and it's also actually going, no, I am going to listen. I need to work out what's going on with those two. Like you said about getting the phase right between two microphones. It doesn't matter what it looks like. It's like, how does it sound when you do that?
Yeah.
And it's so important.
But do you find, this is something I've had to really kind of address, do you find if you work in a studio regularly, you kind of start to learn, well, not just working in the same studio, but even having your own techniques that work, do you find you go back to them too often and too easily? Do you sometimes not look for something else because you know that this is going to work?
I always say I've got my starting point, but I deliberately write out a different sheet, an input sheet every time, and I'll go, especially on drums, which we aren't going to talk about. But I'm like, as soon as I hear the cymbals, I know what I'm going to put on overheads, and it's not always the same. And the same with kicks. The kicks can go between a 91 and an RE20 to a D6 and a RE20 or a FET 47. It can be anything, because I just go, I think I know what's going to complement that. But it's never anything newer than about 1985.
Yeah. I have found since we've changed things around that there was a few things, like, for example, room mics.
Yeah.
I knew I'd covered that whole room in every mic and moved them around over the years. I mean, I've been here 12 years now.
Wow.
So you start to know, I know when I put a mic in that corner there, it's going to sound great. I know the drum kit is going to sound good if it's sat in this corner of the room. I know that, and in some ways, I guess that kind of limits you a little bit. But you do know, like, I haven't got to waste time. I know I can get a really good room sound off that mic in that position. But since we've redone it, I've lost all that.
Right.
I've having to start from scratch again, which is brilliant.
Yeah.
It's so exciting to search out all these new positions for microphones. Where's the big John Bonham bass drum hump in the room? Where is it? I found it this week. It's in that corner. And it's massive. I went, see, that used to be in that corner, but no, it's all changed.
Wow.
It's a new journey.
That is good, because it's got to be inspirational, hasn't it? I mean, I guess that's part of, again, the whole changing round of this. It's like, it's an inspiring change for you, isn't it?
Yeah, because there was times where I would sometimes dread coming in, not because of the music, but because just like...
That's not what you said earlier.
Well, sometimes because of the music. But sometimes it felt like, oh, God, another day at the office.
Job,
you know. But doing this, I mean, I pretty much haven't left this room since October. I love it here. You know, I sleep in here.
It's brilliant.
Because everything in here, I don't regret a single penny of spending.
No. Including the air conditioning, which is gorgeous.
It's fairly quiet as well.
It is. I was going to comment on that. I mean, I thought I'd leave it a bit after we heard the traffic going past, but the door was open. It's actually incredibly quiet in here.
Yeah.
It's peaceful.
And also quiet electrically as well. You can crank that desk up full. Like, on a loud listen, you can't go past about 10, 11 o'clock on the dial.
Right.
You can't get to 12 o'clock, it's too loud. But you can crank that dial all the way open and you can't hear a single bit of hiss. It's clean as a whistle right through, which we're not quite sure why. We haven't changed. We did some rewiring, but there's no reason that we can think of why it's so much cleaner now than it was.
You didn't have
before.
some hi-fi bus coming in with their Tour-Light suspensions for your amp and everything, changing the orientation and all that. It could easily be something like that, a repositioning, but
different
don't
RF
question it.
interference, maybe. Yeah.
What's it like? I shouldn't probably ask this, but what's it like in terms of overall with guitar noise now? Has that improved?
Yeah.
There's a brilliant byproduct.
Yeah, it has. That's probably because they can get a little bit further away from everything. Because before, people would either be kind of almost sat on the rack, or they'd be right up against the amps.
Yeah, because I mean, we talked earlier before the camera was rolling. We were talking about guitarists we've worked with recently, and one of the guys, I had to have him about 9 feet away from his amp, because the interaction with the power supply was horrendously noisy because of the pickups he was using. So again, a byproduct of expanding a room. All these things are so much more important than gear. And you can't just willy-nilly go through guitar tracks chopping out every bit of noise on chugs. And I know you have to, but if you can get it done at source, it's so much better, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, this week the guitars have been super clean. Almost to the point of like, I think you've got it too heavily gated. Oh, the gate's not on.
Wow.
Oh, right, cool.
They're the important things. It's
everything, every aspect is just better.
Has anything really struck you as like a eureka thing from the live room side of things?
The line of sight, obviously, and people. Apart from the glass being really dirty at the minute, which is a constant battle. People kind of, like the singer was saying the other day, he felt like he was just in the room with me. It's just like you don't really feel like there's a divide there.
Yeah.
Because we did ponder for a while as to whether the glass was too big and going to cause problems on both sides. But we just wanted that feeling of connection.
Yeah.
And it's worked out really well. And also, now that we've got the line straight through to the outside door, I mean, you can have the doors open and the drummer or vocalist or whoever's in there can actually not only see daylight, but can see outside and see all the hustle and bustle that's going on around the farm. And the same that way as well. The new back door, you can open the back door there, and it's almost like you're outside. The drummer can look there and see outside. He can look there and see outside. I know a lot of studios do have windows in the live room, but we've never had the luxury of that. And it used to be really dingy in there. If you turn the lights off, there was no light.
Right.
So just that extra connection.
Yeah.
Everybody's really vibing on that.
That's so important. It's brilliant.
And it's not too noisy round here. There's no main road traffic. So sometimes you can just leave the doors wide open. And we don't really bother the neighbours. And apart from the gym next door throwing weights around, we don't get much bother from anyone else.
Yeah. So in terms of guitar, I mean, if you're going to have problems with a guitarist, what are the ones that you think might be a bit preventable? That if a guitar player was going to come and make our lives easier and their lives easier eventually,
well, preparation, obviously, and that includes your equipment and your playing the song. Whether you wrote the song or whether somebody else wrote the song, knowing what the other person is playing, if there's two guitarists, and bass player, obviously, and not just, he's playing an E and then an A and whatever, but how exactly is he moving between those notes? Is it a push? Is it a slide? Is it a hammer-on? All these details, even if you're not playing the same part, you need to know what the other guy is doing, and you have to have consideration for what everyone else in the band is doing, even the drummer. But we're not talking about drumming.
No.
See, you get people who who put the work in. Two guitarists will sit down and work out, oh, so you're sliding from that note to that note. Okay, well, I'll do the same then. Or I could do this instead. Does that work? Yes, it works. You know, doing that before you come here is great, not only for workflow, but also financially. I mean, why do you want to pay me to sit and listen to you two working it out when you could have done it at home before you got here? And it does happen quite a lot, unfortunately. And with equipment too. Pick your guitar. Are you heavy-handed? Do you grip the guitar? In which case, find a guitar where you're not gonna bend those notes out of tune in between the frets. Don't have a jumbo fretted high action. You know, you can bend a whole semitone out just by squeezing a bit hard. And how come guitarists don't understand that? Surely that's like lesson 1.
Yeah.
Can you keep your guitar in tune?
That's probably the biggest one out of everything, isn't it? Is the hours lost tracking guitars that won't intonate with each other, or you know, strangling a chord to death. It's a. Do you have any things in the bag when you sort of want to I don't know, change the energy of a part, make it more sparkly or something? The guitarist isn't physically capable of, you know, playing a different inversion or anything like that. You know, maybe they don't talk that language, or they're just a jobbing guitarist. I mean,
yeah, I think it depends on their willingness to adapt, because even guitarists that maybe not skilled enough to work out inversions of what the other guy's doing, if you can suggest, oh, well, why don't you stick this note in, or this? That's why I've always got a guitar sat there. I'm not a great guitarist by any means, but I'll pick up a guitar and go, oh, can you just fit that note into the chord? Or have you tried this? And that makes communication a lot easier. But some people are not willing to accept that. Like, I'm not the guitarist, so why am I telling him what to play, kind of thing. But yeah, willingness to adapt, preparation, good equipment. Don't tell me the intonation was fine when you bought it.
Yeah. It wasn't quite that bad the last week, but it was close to that. It was fine when I was last here, which was 5 weeks ago. And I've changed the strings since then, so surely it's okay.
And it's in a different tuning now. Yeah, I've just dropped it from E down to A, and it sounds a bit wrong. Oh, does it really?
Around the sort of 7th fret, it's the action's higher, but it seems to go out of tune a bit. I can't work out why. So how do you manage because I'm... People that know me really well know the 98% threshold of anger. I am Bruce Banner at 98%.
98%? That's quite high.
It's not bad. It's getting lower at the moment. But how do you deal with the frustration of that bloke in the band?
Well,
and his comrades.
I think my threshold is slightly lower.
Yeah, mine is really.
But it depends. It depends what else is going on. It depends what time of day it is. It depends if I'm hungry.
Yeah. Don't even talk to my mum about that.
But sometimes you've got to be blunt with people. The guy the other day, after messing around for ages, and out of tune, and that guitar doesn't work with the sound, and we'd been going round and round in circles for ages and ages, and everybody was getting a bit tired and knocked, and it was coming towards the end of the day. And he said, well, what if I do this? And I just said, I don't care. I don't care anymore. Sorry. And that's terrible. What a terrible thing to say.
Yeah.
And I did apologise afterwards. I'm not usually like that. But sometimes, sometimes it's just like, no, my fuck's given tank is empty.
Yeah.
I've got none left.
I think it's part and parcel of it, isn't it? I mean, you're stuck in a room with everybody pouring their heart and soul into it, and you know that's part of the thing about having breaks, isn't it? And a budgetary led thing of like, how do you fit enough breaks in?
Yeah.
And I do find, especially when you get into the production line of the overdubbing, there's only one person that's here all the time. Everybody else gets time off, and that's not pleading like, oh, I'm really overworked and underpaid. That's if you want the best out of me, don't keep bringing me cups of tea. I'll go to the kitchen myself and make my own because I need 5 minutes. And it's dealing with that whole managing a whole, you know, what it is, it's herding cats, isn't it, really?
Yeah, I mean, I am terrible for it, really. I don't take enough breaks, and I don't, you know, I still have a lunch on my lap while I'm working, and I'll be the first one here and the last one here, you know, and I'm always like, oh, you know, I could go home now, go and have dinner and chill out for a couple of hours, or I could fix that terrible guitar take from earlier, and it'll be great when everyone walks in the morning. And I still do it, and I know it's foolish. I know it is. I know I would be better off a lot of the time to go and have a rest, but I can't do it. If I do, I'll go home and I'll be thinking about it.
Yeah, you won't sleep.
Yeah.
I'm the same. I used to, because on the old days of analog tape, God rest its soul, you know, monumental fuck-ups were when you recorded over something. So you'd like ignore that fader for a few hours and go, I've got to find a way. There's got to be another take where I can, you know, fly it across the half-inch and spin it back in and fix it. And you'd be there till 3 a.m. doing this shit. And then you would sleep. You'd sleep soundly for 3 hours, as opposed to having a restless night of... Yeah.
But the whole COVID situation has actually taught me how to have time off. For the first time ever, when everything was locked down to begin with, I said, strangely enough, I got into gardening.
Wow.
My vegetables are immense.
Is there
now.
a cure for that? Okay, I mean,
I never would have thought it.
No.
But yeah, I've got carrots forever.
There it goes to show,
potatoes,
doesn't it?
onions, and I really got into it. And now I find myself sitting here going, "Oh, I must remember to water the potatoes when I get home." It's not very rock and roll.
No. I can't see you really changing to much else. You know, it's like I can't believe you'd want to upgrade anything on the. You're now looking, you're biting your lips. I bet you are.
Well, I mean, there's always things, isn't there? I mean, eventually I could see the desk going for something else. I'm sure somebody else has got something to say about that.
Yeah. What, like a Neve? Or a cow wreck? No, I think the thing. What strikes me is the busier you are, the more you feel a change on the shit that you use. You're like that. That's why it was like when I got 4, 5, 6s in, it was like these better be fucking good because I know what works. I haven't got time to arse around.
Yeah, I'm finding that with plugins.
Yeah,
I've got so many plugins that I have never used because I haven't got time.
No.
To experiment and go through them. I mean, I try. I'll go, right, today I'll do one new plugin. But there's like 500 plugins in there that I've never even touched.
I know, it's crap, isn't it?
It's just too many.
Yeah.
I'm sure a lot of them are great. And I keep finding great ones. But I'm like, but I already know that this works. Yeah. And I've got 4 hours to mix this song.
I did a thing recently where I had to do a mix for a mix using stock plugins and a mix using premium plugins. I did it for Production Expert lot. Same mix. But I didn't do a comparison and I didn't do match settings or anything. I just went, this is how I would approach it given the limitations of this. And my only concession was that I was using my Yukon stuff, so I had stuff mapped out. It's just come out, but I was beta testing the new software, so I was able to map my plugins how I wanted them. So any EQ I pulled up, I was able to go straight from low, mid gain. Everything was just where it should be.
Yeah.
Like using a console. So all that was changing was the type of plugin I was using. So I did the mix with EQ7 and the Dynamics 3 or whatever.
Yeah.
And I went through and I did all this, and then I set the next mix up and I did exactly the same. And they were different, as you'd expect, but I was hard pushed to remember which was which. 40% of people, so they said 60% guessed right, and it was a guess because some of the stuff they were saying was perception. It's not a lot. And I was like, this is really interesting.
It is,
because what it said to me was I was focused on the task in hand because I didn't really have a lot of time to do it. So I just went, right, mix it as if you're on a console. Let's say this is a SSL mix, this one's a Neve mix. Make it sound how you want it to sound.
Fantastic.
And it's really interesting. It was like, and the control surface side of it was what made me not focus on what I was seeing.
Yeah.
So I think there's a lot to be said for, just.
Is that online? It's available.
Yeah.
Where can I see that?
I'm not going to send you a link.
Oh, go on.
It's on Production Expert. I'll send you a
Right.
link. Yeah, I'll find it on the phone.
Yeah, that's really
It's like a
interesting.
1.5-minute snippet of a song, and the questions were: which mix do you think was done with premium, and which was stock, and which one do you prefer? And the answers were always, thankfully, in a very positive way. One is clearer, one is smoother, which could have been one's muffled and one is too bright.
Yeah.
So I took them all as like being actually they're both good mixes, and therefore
Great.
yeah, it's interesting. It was a good exercise to go through. It hasn't changed the way I work because I always work with control surfaces, but I do like getting away from the screen. It makes you make decisions based purely on
Yeah. I quite often, it's always there.
yeah.
I quite often, once I've grabbed hold of something, I won't look how much I'm turning it.
Yeah.
And I can't tell from a mouse move
No.
exactly. You just listen. And you shut your eyes for a second.
That's that thing with two faders as well, isn't it? It's like, oh yeah, that's better.
Yeah.
Reaching for an EQ.
I remember I was with Sneap once, and he said, "What do you think about the level of this?" And I said, "I don't know. Maybe it needs to just push a little bit." And he said, "Okay." Pulled the faders down. He goes, "Now close your eyes and put it where you think." And I put it, and it was exactly back where they were.
Interesting.
And he said, "Yeah." He goes, "I keep doing it." He said, "I think I want to push them a bit more." He said, "Then I put them down, and I keep putting them back where." He said, "So it must be right."
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Yeah."
Yeah. Yeah, a friend of mine, Don Morley, he does the thing about panning. Someone said, how do you determine where you pan something? And he goes, I grab hold of the pan pot, I shut my eyes, and I pan it until it gets to the point where it's the loudest. And he says, there's a spot for it in the mix. And it's like so simple, really, isn't it, when you think about it? I've worked with people recently who, this one guy, he knows who he is. He got himself a new Digi-Icon, new to him, and he's playing with it. And I watched him tweak a send and the fader, and then look up to the screen and adjust it to what the numbers said. And he said, "I know you're watching me, and I know what I've just done." I went, "You've got to stop that. You've just corrected yourself visually." It's so interesting. And he's done the thing of like panning the two things and then going, oh, one's at 49 and one's at 53. Oh, I better adjust that. It's just like, that's that perfection that makes no sense to me. Really, just like, you're obviously something about you says that felt right.
Yeah. I know there's times where I still do it.
Yeah. Oh, there's nothing wrong with it. I mean, I'm not golden, and I look up and I go, oh, that probably should be. But it's like, it's just nature to correct it, isn't it? And we never used to do that. Fuck knows if the pan pots on the old AMAC Angela were even central. You know?
No.
You know damn well these SSLs, the faders aren't right. He's ignoring me back there. He's taking a photo of the talent. Do you want to see my grotty shoe in the shot? Well, I've just realised my bunion's sticking through.
I bought these running shoes. And guess how far I've run in them?
I don't know. I'm going to say probably... I'm on my third pair of trainers since last January. Fucking ridiculous.
Because of all the walking. Yeah.
I've done... I do easy 40 miles a week. So what does that equate to? 120 a month?
Yeah,
no, 160 a month.
I turned my step thing on during lockdown. It was hilarious.
Yeah.
It was bed, garden, kitchen. Bed, garden, kitchen.
It's terrible, isn't it? This is mercy now. I mean, I actually got past the first time. I was nearly in tears when I broke my streak. I was on a 53-day streak for something, it tracks your move, exercise and standing. And it's like, and then I realised I needed to get over it. But it does make you think. It's like, actually I probably haven't shifted out of my chair for 2 hours. Maybe I should go and get a cuppa.
Yeah. What I do a lot these days is I dance.
Do you?
In here.
Oh, yeah.
While we're working. I'll push the chair to the side and I'll be up and moving around and grooving. And some people think it's fucking hilarious.
Why is there nothing on YouTube?
What are you doing? And I'm like, just moving around.
Yeah.
And I was like, anyway, come on, feel the groove. It's fucking great. Come on. And then, like yesterday, I had the whole band, everybody going for it. And I was like, yeah, see, we can have fun and move around a bit. It doesn't work so well with black metal.
You need a mosh pit. Circle